Alright fam, welcome back to the channel. If things look different, I'm filming this intro about the day after I filmed this video. This is part 2 of Day in the Life of an Air Force Officer. Alright, so if you guys haven't seen part 1 of this video, go ahead and click back and watch that video. There's a bunch of cool stuff in there, just following my commander, Lieutenant Colonel, around. But this is part 2, alright? So we're gonna get to go to another meeting, just a sneak peek, as well as getting a full interview with him, man. And I know it's a little long video, but there's a lot said in this interview. Just learning about leadership, learning what it means to really be an officer and what it takes, that whole process, as well as just some lessons learned from life. So I hope that you guys are able to watch this full interview, and I appreciate you guys. If you like this comment, or if you like this content, excuse me, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I thank you guys for watching. See y'all soon. To live in the present, you know?
Make a list of dollars.
So I appreciate you guys.
Union side.
Might do a little boost. My commander with me. Yeah. All right.
Please go. Please go. Please go.
No, I would like that much.
The state. Please go. Please go.
All right, so we got my flight chief, Senior Master Sergeant O'Quinn. If you had one leadership lesson that you've learned throughout your career so far, what was the best thing?
All right, I got one. So, don't gripe down. Gripes only go up. They can go lateral, and they can go up, but they don't go down. You know, as soon as you start griping, saying, "Oh, they gotta make us do this," then their credibility, you're down. You know, it's kind of a cop out, right?
Right.
So you got to kind of sell it to your own folks. And so yeah, the gripes, they always go up. You can complain amongst your peers and your leadership and stuff, but you got to kind of have an agreement once you're going out the door to make sure that you're on the same page.
You guys just went down the office.
All right. Y'all here to hear it first.
That's right.
Please go. Please go.
I got a couple questions.
Sure. Yeah.
That I hope will help somebody else that maybe wants to get where you're trying to get to. And
Sure.
All that.
Sure.
So, pretty much just with the day in the life so far, we went to the award for the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. We went to the triad meeting, triad panel, and we just saw a bit of your staff meeting.
Sure.
Is there anything that you'd like to tell us about just a day in the day, what you do?
Yeah, so I mean, the day in the life, there's always something new, always something different. There's a lot of email and kind of the admin side of the things that we kind of have to take care of. And that's kind of I call it the necessary evil. I think if you talk to any commander, they would love to be out and about with their airmen all day, every day. I think the most fun I had last week was hanging out with you guys out there at 1750 doing the setup. That's the fun stuff, getting your hands dirty. But unfortunately, the machine that is the computer over here is where a lot of things get done, and so that requires us to do a lot of work. So between that, between doing meetings, that takes up a lot of your day, and then a lot of it is just, again, the walking around talking to folks, trying to see what's kind of going on. But that's kind of the general part of the day. And then, if there's outages, that could be middle of the night phone calls or whatever. So that's kind of what I think the day in the life is.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, and then just a bit about yourself. Where are you from?
Sure.
Where'd you go to school? Things like that.
Sure. So I grew up in a small farm town called Ellington, Connecticut, about 20 minutes north of Hartford. More cows than people there growing up. I liked it as a kid. It was good. It was all about service and taking care of your neighbor, and so that was kind of really big. So I did that for a little while. And then after graduating from high school, I wanted to get out of the small town. So I went to Northeastern University, which is in Boston, Massachusetts. I did a year up there, and it was a totally different experience than what I was used to, coming from a small farm town, which I think was phenomenal. School's a little expensive, so I decided to go back home, and I went to the University of Connecticut. And then I graduated from University of Connecticut. While I was doing UConn, I also was part of their Air Force ROTC program. That's kind of how I got into the military. I'd never really heard about ROTC growing up. It happened to be in one of the course catalogs you kind of go through looking for college classes. I always knew I wanted to serve, but never really knew how. And so that's kind of how I ended up going through ROTC, and I just fell in love with it. Fell in love with the people and what we had to do, and yeah, and so that's what got me into becoming an officer. And then it was first duty assignment was Charleston, South Carolina. Gorgeous,
Right.
love Charleston.
So it was
the
on
Low
my list
Country.
when I was coming in. So.
Oh, it was it's what a phenomenal area. It's grown significantly, as you can imagine. Did about 4 years there to include a deployment to Iraq. When I was there, left, came down here actually to MacDill the first time. Worked over at U.S. Central Command as an executive communicator for the commander and the deputy commander. Then after that, went over to Colorado Springs, worked at Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station.
Okay.
So if you ever watched the movie War Games with Matthew Broderick, and they talk about NORAD going inside the mountain and all that stuff, that's probably a movie that's a little bit dated for your time, but really good movie. If you get a chance to watch it. Yeah, War Games takes place inside Cheyenne Mountain, and so that's where I worked for a couple of years.
Okay.
After that, to the Pentagon, worked in cyber strategy and policy for a little bit. I did a stint with a team called the Defense Digital Service. They're like a SWAT team of nerds. So for my time there, I pretty much wore a hoodie and jeans every day to work, trying to fix some of the DoD's software challenges. And if you haven't realized it yet, we have a lot of software challenges. After that, I got picked up for a fellowship on Capitol Hill. So spent 18 months up there as a defense fellow. So kind of see how Capitol Hill works, how Congress works, and those kind of relationships. Came back to the Pentagon for about 6 months, and I worked as the Congressional Engagement Officer for the Space Force.
Okay.
So working for General Raymond and setting up all of his congressional engagements at the Hill, which was incredibly stressful. And then down here, back to MacDill the summer of 2020 in the height of COVID. It's kind of weird to actually be talking to you without a mask on right now.
Right.
Things are hopefully moving in the right direction. And I've been here since then, and I'll be leaving here in July of this year and going back up to DC
Right.
for school. So that's life in a nutshell.
So you mentioned growing up that there was a big service aspect
Yeah.
to you. I could say y'all's way of life.
Yep.
Do you think that played into your part in joining the military?
Absolutely.
Or why did you
Yeah,
say you joined
absolutely. So, kind of serving your neighbor, always taking care of folks. That was just instilled in me in a young age. My dad grew up on a farm, and he kind of had that, I think, that just mentality of taking care of your neighbor. And so I always knew I wanted to serve. It just, he wasn't sure what capacity.
Right.
And so when I found Air Force ROTC, it kind of offered that opportunity to go serve. And that's definitely what got me in. Serving your country, doing something bigger than yourself, being a part of something bigger than yourself,
Right.
it's absolutely incredible. And I love it. I love it for the mission that we have, and I love it even more for the people that I got a chance to serve with. Because there's something to be said when you've got those kind of same, morals and ethics and that same kind of why behind you. It really kind of attracts just some amazing folks.
So a lot of our viewers are probably looking to commission. I know I've talked to a few.
Okay.
You said you went through ROTC. How was that path for you?
So that was, that's probably, I'd say of all the paths, personally, I think it's probably one of the easiest paths.
Definitely. I think
It seems to be the one because, the great thing about ROTC is you can try it out first. And so, your first year of ROTC, whether it's Air Force, Army, whatever it is, it's kind of like a test year to go, hey, do I like this way of life? I mean, you don't get the full picture of it, but at least you have a general taste. And if after that first year, you're like, hey, thanks, but no thanks, that's it. You can kind of go do something different. But if you decide you want to stick with it, you kind of do your, usually once a week, you kind of meet up for a leadership lab. You've got maybe a class or two throughout the week. Some of the ROTC detachments do like PT together and everything, which is great. As you do that for your time going through college, which is typically 4 years, and then you commission as a lieutenant. And so that's kind of the way I came through. And it may have changed a little bit because I've been in for a little over 15 years now, but that's kind of the general kind of framework. So yeah, you wear your uniform once a week. The rest of the week you're a college student, which I thought was crazy. The second kind of more coveted way I would say is probably the Air Force Academy. A lot of folks like to go there. Pretty stringent requirements to get into the Air Force Academy, obviously.
Right.
And getting a letter from your senator, your congresswoman. So that's a pretty big one. And then other kind of main one is officer training school, OTS.
Right.
So those are kind of the three main ones. There are some other ones they have for if you're a nurse or you're a chaplain or you're a doctor that you can do. But yeah, OTS is probably the big one that comes in. OTS is open to civilians as well as enlisted military members. In fact, we actually just had one of our own from this squadron who got picked up for officer training school.
Okay.
He was a staff sergeant in the Air Force, cross-trained to the Space Force, and he just commissioned last Thursday. as a second lieutenant now in the Space Force. And so,
wow. Okay.
highly competitive officer training school. I mean, it's a again a very, very robust application process. You have to show kind of that demonstrated potential to serve as an officer, but it's certainly doable. So yeah, those are the three I think main ones: ROTC, the Air Force Academy, OTS. Again, there are some other unique ones out there, but those are the three big ones.
Right. Okay. And what made you choose the cyber field? Is that what you studied in school, or did it interest you?
So I didn't choose the cyber field, the comm field. So typical Air Force, needs of the Air Force come first. And I'm sure we all had our dream sheets kind of coming in of what we wanted to do.
Right.
So comm was actually number 3 for me. It was comm and intelligence were the kind of 3, 4. My first one was public affairs.
Public affairs.
So I actually studied communication in college. Communication isn't like talking and public speaking and PR. And so that's what I really wanted to do. But my year group, they only took 2 people out of the entire out of all ROTC detachments. So that wasn't going to happen because I was an okay student in school, not a great student. The second one down was space and missiles. That was back when space and missiles were one career field. Essentially, you would kind of go in and you might branch off to space to go fly satellites, or missiles, which means you're going to go live in a missile alert facility and do that kind of stuff. That was my second choice. I didn't get picked up for that. I got comm. My guess is the Air Force saw that my degree was in communications. And they might have thought like communications when it really is more like communications. And so, again, it worked out well. In high school, one of my side hustles / college was running my own kind of website design business and computer repair thing. So I had that IT background, so it was totally fine. It was just kind of unique how I kind of fell into it. And I got to tell you, I absolutely love it. It's just such a dynamic career field. There's always something new going on. That it's been a great ride so far.
Do you think your degree in communications, public speaking, helped you? Do you have to talk a lot?
We do, yeah. So that certainly helps, I think, quite a bit because obviously in what we do a lot of those kind of public forums where you got to have those public speaking skills. I'm not saying I'm a pro at it by any means, but at least help kind of give that framework, and it makes you feel more comfortable kind of getting into that piece of it. To include things like with marketing and stuff like that, it helps out. So
okay,
yeah.
Let's see. So I actually read a bit of your bio on LinkedIn. I saw you were a electronic warfare officer at one point, and some other things. What would you say was your favorite rank or position going through the? So
electronic warfare officer is what I was when I was deployed. So our job was we were counter IED specialists. Oh wow! So back in 2008, 2007, and 9. A lot of what the terrorists were using were radio-controlled IEDs, so garage door openers, cell phones, and what they would do is send a signal to an IED that was planted as a convoy was going by, and it would blow it up. And so we put special systems on the vehicles that would essentially jam that signal. And so my job as a electronic warfare officer was essentially to jam those signals. Wow. So as we were rolling by, we put a lot of noise out, and essentially the signal wouldn't be able to get through. And so that was incredibly rewarding because we would go out with the Marines doing route clearance missions to make sure their systems worked. And so that was an incredible opportunity to get to deploy. I absolutely loved it, and it really kind of helped kind of focus you on the mission itself. In terms of the best job I've ever had, definitely this one. Being a squadron commander is, I'd say, everything I've always wanted to do. Just leading people, being around airmen, and just seeing how y'all get the mission done is absolutely incredible. Because as a commander, as a chief, as a first sergeant, I'm not the one out there doing the mission every day. Right. You guys are the one doing the mission every day. And so it's just incredible to kind of see, and you kind of put out some guidance or some intent, the ability to kind of go out there and get stuff done. I mean, if you really think about what y'all do here for Team McDill, it's pretty remarkable, pretty incredible, especially when you consider you got U.S. Special Operations Command here and U.S. Central Command here. It's pretty incredible to see, and I just kind of love being a part of it, really, and just kind of watching y'all work. And so this has definitely been the best job in the Air Force, and I think, frankly, it will be the best job I have in my entire career because when I think about what comes next, while it's cool and it's fun, it's just not the same. It's just not the same.
Okay. And talking about your deployment, it kind of shows that you do have to have that not only managerial but technical background with what you do. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're more of a junior officer, we definitely expect a lot more from a technical perspective. And so yeah, I was the guy on the ground, making sure that the systems were programmed properly. I was making sure that we tested them out for every single mission to ensure they were doing what they need to be done. I think you're seeing that a lot more now too. As we became from communication officers to cyber officers, we're expecting a lot of our younger cyber officers to have those technical skills as well. And so that's a pretty unique thing. You think about it though from like a pilot perspective. We are the Air Force. Pilots, more your junior officers are the ones that are flying.
Sure.
When you make major, it starts to kind of peter down. Lieutenant Colonel peter down some more. I think you're going to start seeing the same thing, or we are seeing the same thing on the cyber domain. When you're a younger officer, your hands on keyboard and you're doing offensive or defensive kind of things. But as you move up in the ranks, you kind of move away from that. But it's still, I think, important to understand it, because if there's issues or something going on, if you don't have that technical background, it's hard for you to understand what the problem is or what's going on. And so when your technicians are coming to you, your airmen are coming to you, and they're going, hey, this switch isn't working. If you're like, well, what's a switch? What's a router? I don't know what any of these things are. That kind of, they then have to kind of bring things down a few levels. But I think it's our job to understand that, stay on top of the latest technology, so that we can be, better advocates for them for what they need.
Okay.
So, yep.
Makes sense. So, going into the leadership side of things, what do you look to, or who do you look to for learning and inspiration when it comes to going higher and higher into this big Air Force?
Well, that's a really good question. I think my first kind of mentor, I would say, was growing up with my dad. I always looked up to him and kind of the morals and the values that he had, and I wanted to have those instilled in me. I've had a couple of really good mentors over my time. A couple of 06 is one who recently retired and one who's still in, that I reach out to on a pretty frequent basis to just kind of get those vector checks.
Right.
Here's what I'm thinking, what are you thinking, kind of a thing. And so they've been really, really good mentors to me. I find a lot through reading as well. General Mattis, who was the commander of U.S. Central Command, later the Secretary of Defense, he had a really kind of, I can't remember the quote off the top of my head right now, that he never felt unprepared because he did a lot of reading. And if you read history, a lot of it repeats itself.
True.
And so I find a lot of the kind of leadership guidance through reading as well. I think one of the best books on leadership that I read is called The Servant Leader. And that's kind of the leadership philosophy that I try to embody, that kind of servant leadership. Understanding that, myself and the chief and the sheriff, the entire leadership team, we are here for you. We're here for the airmen. We don't exist without you. Right. And I think a lot of folks, when they get to certain ranks, they forget that. They forget why they're here. They forget who they're supposed to be serving. And so that's kind of how we kind of look at it. And so I'd say between kind of growing up as a kid, between some of the mentors and the role models I've had since I've been in the military, through a lot of my experiences, and then I think some of the books I've had a chance to read or listen to now that everything's on Audible, have really kind of helped shape and guide me so far.
So I just ordered the one you had recommended to me the other day, the Shadow War.
Oh yeah,
I did. Are there any other ones for our listeners? Because we kind of have like a book of the month that you recommend.
I've got one. I'll send you my book list.
Okay.
It's really big. I think the big one that General Brown's been pushing out right now is called The Kill Chain by Chris Ambrose. That's really, really good. Kind of talks about current really and future warfare, kind of what we're seeing and facing with Russia and China. Obviously, which in today's day and age, especially with Russia and Ukraine, is pretty big. Shadow War was a really good one I just finished. The 100-Year Marathon, which kind of talks about China's kind of 100-year strategy, was really good. From leadership perspective, Extreme Ownership, I think his name is Jocko Willink. He's a former Navy SEAL. Talks about kind of just owning your battle space, owning your projects, just kind of just having that ownership, which I thought was really good. He also has a good part in there too about how to set your ego aside. I think a lot of times we go back to forgetting who you serve, forgetting who you lead. That ego is what really hurts a lot of folks that I've seen in my career, where they think they're too good for something or they're above something, and they forget to kind of take that ego and check it at the door. And so, I love watching when leaders kind of get out there and get their hands dirty and stuff like that. Not to get in the way, but just to kind of be there if needed, and kind of just kind of lead from the front. Those are some of the big ones. Actually, I got a bunch over here. Leading Up is really good. You can see The Servant I have. But yeah, I'll send you that book list.
Sure.
It's pretty good. It's got a good mix of leadership books, good mix of Air Force history books, Good one on John Chapman, who's a Medal of Honor recipient. That's a really good one to read.
That's the street they named that.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's one of the Medal of Honor recipients from Afghanistan. Really incredible story. There's another really good one. Kyle Carpenter wrote it. I forget the name of the book off the top of my head. I think it's like Thank You for Your Service or something. He's another Medal of Honor recipient winner. Really good book. And so, yeah, I'll send you my list.
All right, we'll put that in the description for you guys.
Yeah, we'll put it out there so you guys can kind of see. And just, a good mix of books. Ashley's War was really good. Talks about some of our female service members and what they've had to go through trying to get into some of the special operations side of things.
Wow, okay.
So really, really good stuff. Again, kind of a big wide variety. I'd say more recently a lot of focus on Russia and China just because of world events. So
Okay. All right. Let's see. Going to the next question. What is probably the biggest risk that you've taken in your career, and how did it help you or hurt you?
Oh, the biggest risk I have taken in my career. That's another really, really good question. I think as commanders we take risks all the time with certain things, and you kind of have to weigh the pros and cons, and sometimes just kind of move out. I don't know. That's a very good question. I might have to come back to you.
Okay.
Come back and think of that one. The biggest risk I took. You looking professionally or like personally, mission wise or people wise, or it could be either one, or
It could be either. Whatever you think just taught you the best lesson. Whether it's taking a leap of faith in something.
So I mean, I'll tell you, from a professional perspective. So there's been 2 jobs that I kind of got offered for, and I turned them down, and I turned them down because of my family. And so the job I had here at U.S. Central Command as an executive communicator for the commander and the deputy was incredibly demanding. 20 plus days a month, you're on the road, and kind of put the family in a lot of turmoil because I would come home for like maybe a day or 2, and then you're out. And so it got really kind of frustrating. I know for my wife, who would get my son into a routine. I come home, I mess up the routine, and then I'm out the door again, back on another mission. And so that was really, really tough. Those 3 years I was here, doing all that travel. I mean, it was a lot of fun, a lot of really cool missions, but it definitely had a big impact on the family front. And so we went to Colorado Springs next, and that was more of a, I don't want to say 9 to 5 job, but it was a more stable, hey, I'm home every night kind of a job, which was really good. Right before I left, I got offered to go be the, at the time we had Air Force Space Command, go interview to be the aide de camp at the time for General Hyten. Incredible opportunity. I would love to have worked with General Hyten because he is just a brilliant thinker. And I sat there and I thought to myself, how's this going to impact my family? Because it's another job where you're pretty much going to be working a lot, traveling a lot, not home a lot. And I said no. And my wing commander was like, you crazy? Like, what do you mean no? I said, I can't do this to the family. The second time happened at the Pentagon. I went and interviewed to be the deputy CIO, Mr. Bill Marion's executive officer, and he kind of asked me why I wanted the job, and I told him, with all due respect, sir, I don't want this job because, again, it meant incredibly long hours, both in the morning and at night, and I was living pretty far away from the Pentagon at the time, and I didn't want to be away from my family.
Right.
And so, in terms of risk, that's one of those things that I always bring into a lot of my decision calculus of risk is my family and the well-being of them, because at the end of the day, this uniform comes off.
Right.
And if you've forgotten about your family, if you took too big of risks, I would say, to do things that, they'd be a lot of fun, but they're temporary, you might miss out on something. And so maybe it's kind of the anti-risk I took or something. I don't know. But that's what comes first into a lot of my decisions is family as much as I can, because they do make a lot of sacrifices. And there's going to come a time again where I'm going to have to deploy again. You kind of can see it coming. And so if I'm home, I want to be home with them as much as I can, considering what they do. So, but I'll also put some more thought into some of the bigger risks I've taken. I've done some riskier things when I was younger. I take a little less. That deployment I went on. We were doing a Rotc clearance mission one time, and it was a little chilly out, and so I asked the Marine Corps gunner in the lead vehicle, hey, can I go open the turret and run the turret, and that way you get a break? And he's like, heck yeah, because he's a young Marine. He's like, I'm going to go back here where it's warm. I'm a first lieutenant who's alone and unafraid up there with a 240 Bravo, and so there I was, rolling through the streets of Iraq in the turret with a 240 Bravo. That was not, looking back on it now, not the brightest decision in my life, because if something had gone down, that would have been really, really bad. Because they would have been like, why was there an Air Force lieutenant up there who was your EWO and not an actual gunner? So not the brightest decision. It worked out well. Obviously, nothing bad happened. But yeah, you have some of those decisions that you make when you're younger that you're like, oh, that could have ended up really, really bad. And thankfully it didn't. So
I think even that, the risk of putting your family before your job sometimes is a big life lesson that
yeah,
take from. So.
Absolutely. Again, there's going to come a time where you have to work a late night or something's going on. I get it. But just don't ever forget about them. They're incredibly important. And if you forget about them, they're going to forget about you. And again, the Air Force, I absolutely love it. I bleed blue, but it is temporary. There's life outside of the Air Force, and just don't ever forget that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so without getting into maybe some real specifics, what are some of your goals as a commander? Like, what do you want to impact, or what do you want to leave? I know you're leaving in a few months. What kind of things do you want to leave here when you go to your next place?
That's a really good question too. And so, I think the three things that I want to make sure that we leave, and it's something I kind of came in with, like two things really. So the first one is kind of what you call the 3Ds, because obviously your career field, everyone used to be 3 deltas, which was great.
Right.
You're now 1 delta 7s, which has changed up a little bit, but being 3Ds, we had the 3Ds of dominate, dedicate, and drive. And so dominate meant understanding what we're here for in the mission and taking care of that. Dedicate meant taking care of our airmen and their families. That's a big one. That's taking care of the people. And the last one is drive to seek balance and have fun. And so mission, people, and having fun were the big 3 things I was kind of trying to focus on during my time here. Because one, you live in Tampa, Florida. You got to have a good time when you're down here. You never know where you're going to go next.
Right.
And when you take care, you take care of people and each other. That's how those relationships matter. The reason why I'm still in the Air Force today is because of the people that I serve with. And so if we can create an environment where everyone likes to kind of go out, hang out with each other, you have that shared kind of values, that shared bond that you kind of form together, and that's incredible. And then the last one is that mission piece. That's kind of what we're here for on a daily basis, is making sure that we're taking care of the installation, making sure airplanes are going out in the air. That's the big thing. And so actually it's kind of ironic, you kind of have the camera facing over here. So culture equals values plus behavior. So talking about what we value and then actually going out and do that. Because you can talk all you want, but if you're not out there showing it on a daily basis, it means nothing. And so this was from a book, I think it was Simon Sinek who wrote that book. I can't remember if it was Start With Why or Leaders Eat Last, but he said that in the book, and I thought it was really profound.
I've heard of Start With Why.
Yeah, so also a really good book. So more book plugs for you. And he had that quote in there, and I thought that was really, really good, because that's the kind of culture that I want, not just in my squadron, but in our Air Force. And so as long as we kind of have that focus and that mindset of taking care of the mission, taking care of our people, and having fun, I think we'll be in a good spot kind of going forward. Because you're gonna be faced with adversity. There's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be challenges. To what you've been doing, think about the SAT cube. Did it work the first time you got it?
Did not.
It did not work the first time you got it. It took a lot of time, a lot of perseverance, and kind of working through things to figure it out. But I don't think you really. Oh, I hope you didn't get too stressed out about it, because you knew that you had your teammates there that you were going to kind of work it out with, and you guys were going to focus on it and get it done. And now it's working great.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. So one last question. We just make this a fun one. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie. There's a lot. There's like different. There's different times of year. When it's Christmas time, it's like the Christmas Story. Well, you shoot your eye out, kid. Growing up, I used to like Shawshank Redemption, which is kind of a deep movie.
Okay.
Not as funny, but that one was really good. There's a lot. I'm just trying to think. I've been watching a lot of Disney movies lately with my kids and everything. So we're watching Encanto and everything else. Some of the James Bond movies are really good. I don't know if I have like a single favorite movie. I kind of like all, except for scary movies.
You don't like scary?
I do not like scary
I'm
movies.
Not a scary movie fan,
I don't know. It's the whole like jumping out and like I just don't like that stuff.
Yeah.
I much rather prefer the kind of fun movies, the Die Hards, which are kind of action packed.
Okay.
Those are always really good. Home Alone is a classic. I'm doing a lot of Christmas stuff. I feel like it's March, but I'm still talking Christmas movies. Those are really good. Anything with Adam Sandler, Happy Gilmore is always a classic. Yeah, I love watching movies. I feel like they're really good because it's a good escape sometimes.
True.
When you're having a rough day or a stressful time, you can pop that on, and for the next hour and a half, you can kind of get a break and reset yourself and get ready to come right back at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's pretty much it. Do you have any last message for anybody that's coming into the Air Force or anything like that?
I gotta tell you, it's absolutely incredible. I've been in the Air Force for 15 years now. I have seen and done some incredible things out there. I would say the biggest piece of advice I can say if you decide that you join the Air Force or any of the branches for that matter is get involved. Get involved in whatever unit you get to. Get involved in your community. The more you get involved with things, I really think the better time that you'll have. Sure, you can go sit in the cubicle and be that person who just kind of does their thing, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I say the more you get involved, the closer you'll feel to the people, the closer you'll feel to the mission. And I got to tell you, the Air Force is incredible. If your first assignment stinks, let's say you didn't want to come to MacDill for whatever reason, there's light at the end of the tunnel. You're only going to be here 3, maybe 4 years. Rotate out to your next assignment. I have landed on aircraft carriers. I've gotten shot off at aircraft carriers. I've gone and traveled all over the world to see some incredible things. Been to tons of embassies. I know y'all can't see it, but there's lots of coins behind Airman S's head over here. And those are all places I've been and things I've gotten to see and do. And I've only been there for 15 years, and I'm retirement eligible in 5, and then you can start a whole nother life, whole nother career if you really want to after that 20-year mark. But it's an incredible journey. But get involved, and I think you'll have just an absolute blast. So, and then also don't forget to like and subscribe to his channel. I'm a follower of his channel, which is how I kind of found out he was doing it. So don't forget about doing that too. So it's really important.
All right. Well, that's everything that we got for you guys. Thanks for watching. Like you said, go ahead and like and subscribe. And that's all for you guys. Stay blessed. All right. Thank you.
That's cool, right? Yeah. That's cool.